What's the worst thing a woman has done on the first date? I showed up to grab a drink and she was already blacked out. Chatted for 30 minutes and left. The next day she messaged me asking why I never showed. This is my favorite one in this thread. Haha, thanks. She referred to her 3 daughters as cunts in a conversation without me even knowing she had children. Yeah, cut that night short. Funny enough, she was the ex of Coworker and that created a whole new level of drama. One time I stopped dating a girl because she was mean to her anxiety service dog. Like WTF. F yeah you did. Good on you. Told me she was pregnant by her roommate / fiancé. That's a bullet speeding towards your face. At least she was honest. Unlike Op, she didn't have the option to pull out to avoid crisis. Showing up to the bar 7 hours early and proceeding to get blackout drunk while repeatedly texting me throughout my workday saying I should just come now is the first thing that comes to mind. Lol, the replies to you saying hell yeah or sounds like my kinda girl have obviously never dated an alcoholic. My ex-friend is an alcoholic. She can down almost a half-sized bottle by herself in 2 hours. When I would pick her up she would have a bottle with her and take sips from it. It got to the point where she was getting drunk every time she was with me and I ended up having to babysit her. Was really annoying. She had a court case pending for drunk driving and possession and she still drinks and drives after losing her license and lied to me about quitting drugs. I gave up on her after she only texted me to take advantage of my kindness and do things for her. I helped her move. She tricked me into getting the U-Haul for her. She said someone else was going to get it or she would. Didn't know her license was suspended yet until we were at the desk and she dropped the bomb that I would have to get it because she didn't have a license. I asked the lady who would be responsible if she crashed it and she said me. I ended up driving it thankfully without crashing. I came from another city to help her. She didn't even help with gas. She said she would buy me lunch. Never did. Had to count change out of my purse to make it back. And on top of that she didn't even thank me the next day. She texted me recently and I didn't respond. She's a mess and I want nothing to do with her. Brought a friend to dinner. Okay, sure, bring a buddy I suppose. But the friend wanted to sit at the table and not the bar so we could have some privacy. And they both thought I was going to pay for dinner for all of us and drinks. And friend made it clear she was only there to see block because her friend liked to sleep with guys and she was there to prevent that. I kind of felt like I was being accused of a sex crime. I just looked them both in the eye, told them I ain't the one, and left. This was before we even got our drinks too. And they both thought I was going to pay for dinner for all of us and drinks. I literally laughed in their faces and walked out when they said that. The shock was real lol. I don't have any total horror stories, but when I was away at school, like 2 hours away from home, I matched with a girl from my hometown when visiting my parents. We talked for a few days and she wanted to meet for dinner, but I had already gone back to school and it was the middle of the week. So I skipped an evening lecture to go see this girl. As a horny 19-year-olds this seemed like a good idea and drove 2 hours in the dark and snow. Got to the restaurant and when I went to message her that I was there I found she had deleted me off everything. I texted her. We didn't text often, but I had her number and got no response. Still have no idea why she did this, but she was well aware I was driving 2 hours to meet her. The last message she sent me was after I told her I was leaving, telling me to drive safe. Not sure what changed during the 2 hours I was in the car, but I never heard from her again. Needless to say my parents got a surprise visit from me that night and I didn't feel like telling them why. It's always the 2-hour plus horny drives that end for the best stories. She suggested we go to a party she was invited to. Most of the party she spent in the bathroom snorting cocaine and having sex with the ex-boyfriend she claimed that she hated. I did meet a cool dude in a punk band. I ended up dating his sister a couple months later. You dated Amber too? Oh shit. Amber alert lol wait. We had previously agreed on a restaurant time and to just do separate bills, to which I would offer to pick up hers at the end to be polite. I arrived on time and msged that I was there. I got a reply stating she was already inside and seated. The server had just bought her another glass of wine and was walking away with an empty wine glass and a shot glass. The first words out of her mouth weren't even hello. They were, "You're paying, right? I don't have any money." I didn't breathe a word. I just turned around and left. How can people be like this? You would be amazed how far people can get by running roughshod over social norms. Because most people are hardwired to keep things normal, they'd rather shell out a few bucks to keep a rude date quiet than cause a scene. Only talk about her ex and the breakup, talking in details about all of it, and refuse to change the subject. The best part is, the breakup happened when she was 22. She's 35 now. Fun times that was. Dude left that 13-year impression on her. Give her another 10 and she'll be good to get back out there. Some people will never get over anything in their lives. Avoid them. Bragged about stealing. Yes, literally stealing behind his back her last boyfriend's Galaxy watch. Then proceeded to complain about her last date for being too fat. Then genuinely got offended I had an Android phone instead of an Apple. Real nice person. Jokes on her. Galaxy watches are cheaper branded quartz watches. Zero value at all. Glad you said that. I just heard some guy talking the other day about how he wanted to leave his girl, but she just bought him a Movado, and he likes luxury watches, so he's going to stick it out and hope for another Movado soon. Lol. Luxury watch. I try not to be a watch snob. A 200 to 300 watch is a luxury depending on how you grew up, but it certainly isn't a luxury watch. The most confusing one I've ever had was when I met this girl at this place. We sit down. Some nonchalant sing. Normal stuff. She asked me when my birthday was. I told her. She goes, "Oh, you're a Leo. What the fuck?" And she got up and stormed out. I was like, I may have just dodged a super ultimate bullet there. Ugh. That is such an Aries thing to do. Hey. So what? She was late and explained that she needed to break into her ex's house, who she broke up with less than a week before. Real quick. She then showed me her bad/unflattering nudes that she posted on Reddit. Edit. I do not remember where the nudes were posted. Disgusting. Where? There's so many subreddits. Which one? Which one? I'm not even going to look for those nude photos. I might though. I might. We had ordered drinks and an appetizer after she picked one of the most expensive restaurants in town. She took a few sips and then asked me about my job. I explained a little bit about it. Said it was pretty boring unless you are a software/firmware/network nerd, and asked her about her. She asks, does it pay well? I kinda agree and then try a second time to change subject. She says, I'm asking you how much you make, because I don't want to waste my time on someone who is broke. I tell her that it's complicated, because when you get to a certain level at a company, you become a flight risk, but also a risk to their long-term strategy as you are considered a strategic asset. So they won't overpay you, but your salary is basically name your price. She says, do you make more than $250K a year or not? That's when I knew it was unsalvageable. She was not just tactless, but rude as well. Also, she would invariably be the type of person to think they should spend all the money as fast as they could. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, image thinking $250K a year is a lot of money. Paid for the food, tipped stupidly, and left. It was the only date where I felt like I couldn't continue it. She looked nothing like her photos. Invited me back to her place, which looked it hadn't seen a cleaning product since it was built. Did blowtorch dabs for 20 minutes before acting like it was time for me to take her to bed. I said I needed something from my car and left. She still texted the next day asking when date 2 would be. I don't know what a blowtorch dab is, and I'm kinda afraid to ask. Basically for people who just can't get high off weed anymore. It's the concentrated resin, and you need a blowtorch and a special barn to get it hot enough to put off smoke. This was helpful. Thanks. I was picturing her doing the dance move. Where do I begin? Within 5 minutes she told me she just broke off an engagement. 10 minutes later she said she went out with a guy the previous week. Hit it off with him. But then when he went to the bathroom she left the bar with another guy in a cab. Told me to buy her drinks. Said I'd be sitting at the table while she's in the bathroom. I look up 10 minutes later and she's talking to the bartender drinking. Asked her what's up. She said she didn't see me. I drank her beer and left. Texted her that I had a great time sarcastically and said she wanted to meet up again. Wacko. She wanted you to take her out and repeat the same thing where you buy her drinks. How boring can she be? Rolled her eyes over the idea that I researched where to take her on a date. It was a cafe with a harpist. That S was magical. I have a few female friends and they all be about how guys never actually plan dates. It's always just play it by ear. So props to you for actually planning something. Hell, I usually plan 2 dates with an outline of a third in mind, just in case things go sideways. She brought her kid that she didn't mention. Better that than we have to stop on the way to pick up my 2 kids that I didn't know about. She had asked me to join her at an party. I figured. Up until midnight drinking. Must be adults only. Nope. It was her, me, another couple sitting around an old card table drinking cheap beer until midnight. With her kids watching TV all night. I swore I would never date another woman with children after that. My daughter gets a laugh out of that story. Because of course I fell in love with her mother, married her, and instantly was helping raise 2 adolescents. As James Bond learned, never say never again. Was in the bathroom a long time. She was going through my medicine cabinet, checking labels. I wonder if it was to steal it, probably, or to check what meds you were hopped up on. Decided to go into detail how she was molested by a friend's father from ages 8 to 14, and then when I was trying to digest all that info she started planning our summer vacation the next year. That belongs on the anxious attachment sub. This was back in my high school days around 2002 to 2003. A girl from the cheerleading team asked me out and of course I said absolutely. It was a Friday night movie date. Simple date. Movie and maybe some ice cream afterwards. I showed up 15 minutes early to buy the tickets. Movie was her choice. Communicated during our initial date conversation. I waited in the concessions area. 15 minutes goes by. No call. No show. For you kids, this was before the first iPhone existed. God, I'm old. No message on my Nokia phone. I still have it and it still works. I wait another 15 minutes and the movie is about to start. Still no call, no show. I wait another 10 minutes before I head into the movie by myself. I hated the movie. It was called 13. After the movie was done, no call, no show. So I went home. Next Monday a bunch of the guys in my class and girls were all asking how my date went while snickering. I was set up on a fake date. It wasn't exactly a date. It was basically dinner and a hookup that didn't end up happening. We had been acquaintances in high school, but she was older than me, and she ran with a more popular crowd, so I'd never really gotten to know her. She'd just gotten out of a long-term relationship with the guy who had been the quarterback when we were back in school, and wanted to cross off some bucket list stuff. The dinner was fine. She made some off-color remarks, which I didn't think about too much, because we were young. I was 21, and she was probably 23 to 24. The hookup was, well, not fine. She insisted on having Ed, and Eddie on in the background. She referred to jizz as papier-mâché more than once. She would only refer to genitals in the way a kid might, like "pee-pee" and "cookie." I couldn't do it. I felt like I was either being pranked or involved in a fetish I didn't agree to. I made an excuse about not feeling well and left. The very next day my buddy asks if it's okay if he takes her out to dinner. I'll let him know what happened, and he says he'll feel it out. Apparently at the restaurant she tried to give him a handjob under the table, challenged him to a belching contest. He didn't participate, and she threw up in her mouth a little bit, and at one point, shot it down her pant leg. After forgetting she was lactose intolerant, she went back to his place to shower, and he still hooked up with her afterward and had the same experience I did. A couple of years later I had a job cleaning corporate bathrooms with the guy who used to be the quarterback. He described her as the one that got away and spent the entire time I worked with him talking about how he'd never find a woman like her again. Sure dude, whatever you say. Browsing through dating apps on her phone during the date. Had her my date was staying over. Got in bed next to me and opened Tinder /view 200D. F bold of them. Snapped her fingers at the waitress to get her attention. A close friend's GF did this when we were all dining together once, and my husband and I gave each other that we are so talking about this later look. This isn't terrible as much as it was very strange. I'm from upstate New York. She was from Florida. She had made several questionably accurate statements throughout the night, but I finally said something when she claimed lacrosse originated from Florida. It's pretty well established it came from the Iroquois tribes of western/central New York. She proceeded to open Wikipedia and read the entry while inserting Florida throughout in an attempt to prove her point. I dropped it, but checked when I went home, and she was just openly lying. 2012 I hit up the eHarmony game. Met a cute nurse, and we met for dinner one night. Dinner turned into drinks. Drinks turned into my place. 10 minutes after we're done, snuggling in bed. So now you're gonna throw me away just like all the rest. And not in some sad or damaged voice. F angry voice. What? You're all the same, just F me and throw me away. If I'm pregnant don't worry, I'll take care of it, and you don't need to know. I'm flawed. Asking what's wrong, where's this coming from, devolves into this crazy situation where she's crying and yelling at me and I'm trying to calm her down. I told her I thought it'd be a good idea if she left. She said she'd call the cops. I ended up having a sleepless night with her later, and then goodbyes and see you soons in the morning. Chatted with her just enough to get some sire material. So why'd you say you were gonna call the cops? I didn't do anything, sorry honey, I know, but I was angry and just saying crazy things to make you scared, but that's okay, now's blocked. Spent weeks expecting her to jump out to the bushes and stab me or something whenever I went in and out of the apartment building. After dinner, she asked me to drop her off at her friend's house. What did you say to her?